I slammed the car door behind me, the gravel crunching under my boots like bones snapping in the quiet Andalusian dusk. Valeria's villa loomed ahead, its terracotta walls glowing faintly under strings of fairy lights she'd hung last summer. Back when everything between us felt like a secret adventure, not this gnawing ache. Mary! Her voice cracked through the open window, raw and ragged, pulling me forward before I could second-guess the drive from Seville. I did it. I left him. For us. The words hit like a rogue wave off the Costa del Sol, crashing over the walls I'd built around my heart since we were kids trading comic books in that dusty Ohio basement. Breathless, I froze on the threshold, the jasmine-scented air thick enough to choke on. Valeria, my Valeria with her wild curls and that laugh like church bells, stood there in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed, a crumpled letter clutched in her fist like a grenade pin pulled too soon. We'd fled the Midwest 5 years ago, two wide-eyed 20-somethings chasing dreams bigger than the cornfields that boxed us in. Spain was our escape. Me, Mary Ellis, chasing freelance journalism gigs in the sun-baked streets of Seville, scribbling stories about flamenco dancers and forgotten poets. Her, Valeria Ruiz, daughter of Mexican immigrants who'd made good in Chicago, now curating art exhibits in Granada's labyrinthine alleys. Childhood friends since kindergarten finger paints, we'd always been inseparable. Sleepovers whispering about boys we'd never kiss. Road trips blasting Springsteen until our throats hurt. But somewhere between the siestas and sangria sunsets, the lines blurred. A brush of hands lingering too long over shared paella. Stolen glances across crowded tapas bars that said more than words ever could. That night, as the stars pricked the velvet sky like hesitant confessions, we sat on her rooftop terrace, the olive groves whispering below like old gossips. The letter was from Tomas, her fiancé of 2 years, the golden boy from a prominent Seville family, all charm and old money, who'd swept her into galas and vineyard weekends. He proposed again, she said, voice trembling as she unfolded the paper, its edges frayed from her grip. Said we'd set a date by Christmas. But Mary, God, I can't breathe when I'm with him. It's you. It's always been you. My heart jackhammered against my ribs, a cocktail of terror and triumph flooding my veins. I'd loved her in silence for years, burying it under layers of just friends' platitudes, terrified of shattering our world. Ohio wasn't kind to girls like us. Whispers in high school hallways, my own coming out fractured by a father's disappointed silence and a mother's tearful prayers. Spain had been freedom. Rainbow flags fluttering from Madrid balconies, couples like us holding hands in Malasana without a second glance. But Valeria? She danced around it, dating men who checked boxes, stable, safe, Spanish enough to please her abuela's ghost. I don't know what to say, I stammered, my fingers twisting the hem of my sweater, the wool suddenly too hot against my skin. The city lights twinkled in the distance, mocking us with their careless joy. Say you'll stay, she pleaded, sliding closer until our knees touched, the heat of her seeping through denim like sunlight through leaves. Say we've wasted enough time pretending. And just like that, the dam broke. Our first kiss was tentative, born of salt-streaked cheeks and shaky breaths, tasting of Merlot and the faint bitterness of what-ifs. It deepened under the moon's indifferent gaze, her hands framing my face as if I were a fragile Alhambra tile. When we pulled apart, gasping, the world had shifted. Valeria's villa no longer just a guest house but home. The weeks that followed were a fever dream of stolen moments. Mornings tangled in her sheets, sunlight filtering through mosquito nets as we traced maps on each other's skin with lazy fingertips. Not urgent but reverent like pilgrims at a shrine. Afternoons wandering the Alpujarras trails, hand in hand, picnicking on Manchego and Membrillo amid wild thyme that perfumed the air. Evenings at hidden jazz clubs in Granada, where she'd lean into me during slow saxophone solos, her head on my shoulder, whispering dreams of a life unbound. A gallery of our own, walls lined with queer artists from Brooklyn to Barcelona. But shadows lurked, even in paradise. Tomas didn't vanish like smoke. He circled, persistent as the summer heat. Phone calls she ignored at first, then answered with clipped politeness. Texts lighting up her screen during our quiet dinners. Miss you, mi amor. Let's talk. That she'd delete with a forced laugh, but I'd see the flicker of guilt in her eyes, dark as the Guadalquivir at midnight. You're sure? I'd ask, over glasses of chilled fino in her courtyard, the fountain's trickle a soothing counterpoint to my unease. Absolutely, she'd insist, squeezing my hand under the table, her touch a lifeline. He's the past. You're my future. I wanted to believe her. God, how I did. We were building something real, letters to my editor about love in the time of siesta, poems she sketched in the margins of exhibit catalogs. But betrayal has a way of creeping in on cat's paws, silent until it pounces. It started with a forgotten phone on the kitchen counter, buzzing like an angry hornet while she showered. I glanced, habit from years of shared secrets, and froze. A photo, Tomas and her, arms linked at a Cordoba wedding last month, her smile radiant, caption, family first. Always. But we'd been together then. She told me it was just a +1 obligation. My stomach twisted, bow rising sharp. When she emerged, towel-turbaned and humming an old Joan Baez tune, I held up the screen, voice steady as rebar. Explain. Her face drained of color, suds dripping forgotten onto the tile. Mary, it's not. Don't. I cut her off, the words a whip crack in the steamy air. We've been here before. The lies, Val. I thought we were past this. It's complicated, she whispered, reaching for me, but I stepped back, the distance between us widening like a fault line. Abuela's sick. The family's pressuring me to settle. Tomas knows people can help with her care. It was one night. Nothing happened. Nothing. I echoed, laugh bitter as unpitted olives. You let him kiss your cheek in front of God and everyone while I'm waiting at home like some dirty secret? Tears welled, but I was done with them, mine or hers. I grabbed my keys, storming out into the olive-scented night. The doors slam, echoing my fracturing heart. Seville swallowed me whole that week. Solitary walks along the river, where tour groups chattered obliviously. Nights in a cramped Airbnb, scrolling old photos until my eyes burned. Friends texted, our mutual expat crew, oblivious to the storm, but I ghosted them, too raw to feign normalcy. Valeria's messages piled up. Apologies laced with poetry, voice notes cracking with sobs. I was scared, Mary. Scared of losing you, of losing them. But you're my anchor. Come back. Please. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I dove into work, pitching a piece on exile and identity, to a New York mag, ironic, typing about fractured selves while mine splintered further. But Spain has a way of healing, slow as ripening figs. One evening, as rain lashed the orange trees outside my window, a knock rattled the door. There she stood, soaked to the bone, no makeup, just Valeria, vulnerable, real. I ended it, she said, water pooling at her feet. For good. Told Abuela everything. She cried, but she held me. Said love like ours is a gift, not a curse. I let her in, the threshold a Rubicon crossed. We talked till dawn, unraveling the knots. Her fear of cultural expectations, my terror of abandonment, echoing my parents' quiet divorce. It wasn't fixed overnight, no Hollywood montage, but we started therapy, a queer expat counselor in Malaga who doled out wisdom like warm horchata. Months blurred into a tentative rhythm, like the flamenco guitar strumming cautious hope in Triana's Tabernas. We rebuilt brick by careful brick. Weekend getaways to Rhonda's vertigo-inducing bridge, where we'd dangle our legs over the abyss and shout secrets into the gorge until echoes faded. Valeria's gallery thrived. A solo show of Latina lesbian artists drawing crowds from Madrid, whispers turning to applause. My article sold, splashed across pages with a byline photo of us arm in arm at the exhibit opening, her proud grin lighting the frame. But peace is fragile in drama's shadow. Enter Elena, Valeria's cousin from Barcelona. Sharp-tongued, ambitious, with a law degree and a vendetta against family deserters. She'd flown in unannounced, ostensibly for Abuela's birthday, but her eyes on me were daggers from the start. Appraising, dismissive. So you're the American phase, she'd quip over a sopeo, her laugh a velvet blade. Valeria bristled, defending me with fire, but Elena sowed seeds. Casual asides about cultural incompatibility, tales of cousins shunned for less. I brushed it off at first, chalking it to jet lag and jealousy. Elena was everything I wasn't. Fluent Spanish rolling off her tongue like poetry, family lore woven into her bones, a network of tes and primos spanning continents. Me? A pale Midwesterner fumbling conjugations, my Spanish peppered with ya knows and ums. But cracks formed. Late nights when Valeria fielded calls from home, her voice softening into rapid-fire Castellano I couldn't parse, leaving me adrift on the couch with a cooling cup of tea. One humid August afternoon it erupted. We'd planned a beach day at Tarifa, windsurfers dotting the horizon like hopeful kites. But Elena tagged along, her bikini a bold slash of red against the sand. As waves lapped our toes, she cornered Valeria by the cooler, words low but lethal. Tia's asking about grandkids again. You gonna throw it all away for this? A flick of her eyes my way, casual cruelty. Valeria's laugh was forced, splashing water at her. Jealous, Prima? Find your own happiness. But later, as we drove back, the Atlantic salt still clinging to our skin, silence stretched taut. What did she mean? I pressed, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Grandkids? We're not even. It's nothing, she sighed, staring out at cork oaks whipping by. Family talk. You know how they are. Do I? The word slipped out sharper than intended, born of that old fear. The one that whispered I was temporary, a detour before the real life resumed. Or am I just the fun foreigner until the pressure cooker boils over? She turned, eyes flashing. That's not fair, Mary. You're twisting it. Am I? Because it feels like every time they pull, you bend a little more. The argument simmered into a cold war. Doors closed a beat too hard, texts left on read. Elena lingered, helping with gallery logistics, her presence a thorn. I threw myself into a new project, a podcast on queer expats, interviewing women who'd carved homes from foreign soil. Their stories mirrored mine. The thrill of reinvention, the terror of impermanence. One, a painter from Seattle, said, "Love abroad is like bullfighting, beautiful, but one wrong move and you're gored." Prophetic. The betrayal came swift as a picador's lance, on a crisp October eve. I'd wrapped an interview at a Cordoba cafe, the air crisp with fallen leaves when my phone buzzed, a photo from an unknown number. Valeria and Elena, locked in an embrace outside the gallery. Elena's lips brushing her cheek in a way that lingered too long, too intimate. Caption. Some secrets aren't meant for outsiders. Ask her about the letters. My blood ran cold, vision tunneling. Letters? I raced to the villa, the Pueblan hills a blur of gold and green. Bursting through the door I found Valeria alone, sorting sketches at the kitchen table, oblivious. Care to explain this? I thrust the phone at her, voice a stranger's, low, lethal. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. It's nothing. Elena was upset, family drama. She's like a sister. A sister who sends me this? I scrolled to the texts below. Snippets of Elena's messages, flirtatious barbs wrapped in concern. And the letters? The ones you hide in your drawer like contraband. She paled, standing slowly. You went through my things? Accident. Dropped my keys. Lie but truth now. A stack of envelopes, Elena's elegant script spilling endearments. Pleased to come home to who we are. Dates back months, overlapping our fragile peace. They're old, Valeria breathed, but her voice wavered. Before us. She was my first. Back in college before I buried it all. First love. Resurrected in whispers? Rage and grief warred in my chest. A storm front rolling in. And now? Is this why you pull away? Why Elena's always here, stirring the pot? No. She grabbed my arms, desperate. I told her to stop. It's you, Mary, only you. But doubt is a virus spreading unchecked. I wrenched free, storming to the bedroom, yanking open the drawer. There they were. Faded ink on yellowed paper. Elena's words a siren song of shared heritage. Forbidden touches in Barcelona dorms. One recent. We could run the gallery together. No more hiding. The room spun. You kept them. Why? To remember, she whispered, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. Not to want. To know what I escaped. Escaped for me? Or just paused? I fled to the terrace, the olive groves mocking with their ancient resilience. Roots tangled deeper than mine could ever go. That night Elena called, bold as brass. You don't belong here, she hissed, accent clipped with disdain. Valeria's playing house, but blood calls louder. Let her go. Her words were poison, but they found purchase in my insecurities. By morning I'd packed a bag, leaving a note. I need space to breathe. Don't follow. Seville welcomed me back like a prodigal. Rainy alleys reflecting neon signs, The Alcazar's Gardens a maze for lost souls. I crashed with a podcast guest, a fiery Argentine who'd laugh off my tears with mate and mantras. Betrayal's not the end, it's the forge. But Valeria didn't let go easy. Flowers arrived, wild poppies from the fields, tied with a sketch of us dancing under stars. Then letters of her own, penned in looping cursive. I burned Elena's words. Called her off. But more than that, I'm choosing us, flaws and all. I wavered, the pull magnetic. Yet conflict demanded its due. Trust, once cracked, leaks light but also doubt. We met in neutral ground. A quiet plaza in Esija, fountains bubbling like hesitant apologies. She arrived disheveled, dark circles under eyes that searched mine like lifelines. I'm sorry, she started, voice breaking on the stones. For the shadows I let linger. Elena's gone, back to Barcelona, bridges burned. But I see now. Love isn't possession. It's showing up every damn day. I nodded, throat tight. And me? I hid too, behind work, behind fear you'd wake up and see the outsider. We embraced then, tentative as spring buds, the plaza's pigeons scattering like released fears. It wasn't mended, not fully, but the high tide of hurt began to ebb. Winter wrapped Andalusia in a merciful chill, frost silvering the olive leaves like whispered promises kept. Our reconciliation was no fairy tale epilogue. It was work, gritty, unglamorous, the kind that leaves calluses but stronger hands. We instituted Truth Tuesdays. Raw, unfiltered check-ins over café con leche at dawn. No topic off-limits. Valeria confessed the weight of her heritage. Not just Mexican roots grafted onto American soil, but the generational trauma of women silenced. Loves hidden behind veils of convenience. Abuela married for papers, not passion, she'd say, stirring sugar into foam. I swore I wouldn't. I'd share my own ghosts. The Ohio preacher's daughter who'd prayed away her feelings until they roared back fiercer. The ex-girlfriend in college who'd bailed at the first whiff of commitment. I build walls faster than I tear them down, I admitted one misty morning, rain pattering on the awning like impatient fingers. Therapy helped, our Malaga sessions a sanctuary, the counselor's office overlooking the sea, waves crashing judgment-free. She taught us radical vulnerability, sharing fears before they festered into accusations. Slowly, the air cleared. Laughter returned, tentative at first, then full-throated, echoing off villa walls during impromptu dance parties to Nina Simone vinyls. Spring bloomed defiant, Azahor perfuming the air like forgiveness distilled. Valeria's gallery hosted a queer pride exhibit, Races Rotas y Reconstruidas, Broken Roots Rebuilt, featuring my podcast guests' art. Canvases of intertwined hands defying borders, sculptures of hearts mended with wire and whimsy. The opening night was magic. Rainbow lanterns swaying, guests from Tokyo to Tucson toasting with kava, Elena's absence a silent victory. I stood beside her, hand in the small of her back, as she gave her speech, voice steady, eyes shining. This isn't just art, she said, gesturing to a piece of mine. A typed manuscript page, inked with olive stains, titled Exile's Echo. It's testament to loves that cross oceans, cultures, fears, to choosing each other every sunrise. Applause thundered, but her gaze found mine, a private vow amid the public roar. Later on the drive home, stars wheeling overhead, she pulled over by a roadside shrine, candles flickering for forgotten saints. Marry me, she asked, not with a ring but a sprig of orange blossom tucked behind my ear. Not for papers or pressure. For us. Tears pricked, joy pure as mountain spring. Yes, I whispered, pulling her close. 1,000 times. But drama, that unrelenting muse, had one more act scripted. High tide hit in June, heat wave baking the earth to cracked clay. Abuela passed quietly in her sleep. Heart failure, the doctor said, but we knew it was weariness, a life of quiet concessions finally at rest. The funeral in Seville was a tapestry of tradition. Black lace mantillas, rosaries clicking like Morse code regrets, Tez wailing in harmonious grief. Valeria held it together for the family, her strength a beacon, but cracks showed in stolen moments. Hands trembling over the casket, eyes distant as we scattered petals into the Guadalquivir. Elena appeared uninvited, her presence a specter at the wake. Condolences laced with I told you so glances, whispers to cousins about the American influence hastening the end. I bit my tongue, focusing on practicalities, arranging flights for my folks, who flew in awkward but earnest, my mom hugging Valeria like a long-lost daughter. But tension simmered, boiling over post-burial at the family finca, a sprawling estate amid sunflower fields. As wine flowed and guitars strummed mournful bolerias, Elena cornered me by the olive press, her breath sherry-soured. "You think you fixed her?" she sneered, low enough for deniability. "Val's playing rebel, but grief will pull her back. To us. To normalcy." "Normalcy," I retorted, voice a whip. "Like your version, hiding who you love behind boardrooms and bows? Spare me." She laughed, cold as winter sirocco. "At least I know my place. You're a phase, Mary. A sunburn that fades." Her words lodged like barbs, but I walked away, finding Valeria on the veranda, staring at the horizon where sun dipped into earth. "Elena's poison," I said, sliding beside her. "Says I'm temporary." She stiffened, then turned, fury flashing. "She's grieving wrong, lashing out. But you? You're my constant." Her kiss was fierce, claiming, scattering doubts like startled birds. Yet the seed sprouted. Back in the villa, as we sifted Abuela's belongings, faded photos of a young Valeria with cousins, letters yellowed with emigration tales, Valeria grew quiet, withdrawn. Nights she'd wake sweating from dreams, murmuring apologies to ghosts. "What if Elena's right?" she confessed one thunder-rattled evening, lightning fracturing the sky. "What if I'm dragging you into my mess? Family expects continuity. Heirs. You want kids someday?" I paused, the question a mirror to my own buried longings. Tiny feet pattering on terracotta, stories told in bilingual lullabies. "Someday, yeah. With you. Adoption, IVF, whatever. But not at the cost of us." She nodded, but shadows lingered, doubt's long fingers. The climax crested mid-July, Feria de Malaga in full carnival cry, streets alive with polka-dotted dresses, casetas thumping with sevillanas. We'd planned a night out, escape revelry, but Elena had wormed her way in, family unity her banner. As we danced, sweat slick and spinning, she pulled Valeria aside during a slow rumba, words lost in the din but gestures clear. Arm squeezes, head tilts, intimate as lovers. I watched from the bar, sangria turning sour in my glass, heart pounding a war drum. When Valeria returned, flushed and evasive, I snapped. "What the hell was that?" "Dance talk," she lied, eyes sliding away. "Bullshit." The word exploded, heads turning. "Elena's got her hooks in you again. Admit it." The casetta emptied around us, music mocking. "It's not," she started, but Elena materialized, smug as sin. "Tell her, Val. About the offer." Valeria deflated, confession spilling like overripe figs. She wants to partner on the gallery, expand to Barcelona. Family investment. Said it honor Abuela. Keep the legacy pure. Pure. I echoed, laugh hollow, meaning no room for me. The contaminant. "No." Valeria grabbed my wrist, desperate. I said no. "But it's tempting. Stability. Roots. And me? Chopped liver. Pain lance deep, betrayal's blade twisting." The crowd blurred, faces leering, masks. "You're twisting it," she cried, voice rising over castanets. "I need this for us. To prove we can build something lasting. Or to appease them." I yanked free, storming into the night, fireworks blooming overhead like false hopes. Malaga's alleys swallowed me, laughter echoing cruelly as I stumbled to a bench, sobs racking till dawn. Valeria found me at sunrise, disheveled, eyes pleading. I turned it down. Texted Elena at 3 a.m. "No deal. My life's here with Mary." Proof on her phone. The message, Elena's furious reply, blocked. But the wound festered. Why entertain it at all? I whispered, spent. "Fear," she admitted, kneeling in the dust. "Of failing you. Of failing her memory. But I see now, legacy isn't bloodlines. It's the love we leave behind." We limped home, the drive silent but not severed. Healing demanded more. Boundaries with family, a joint vow to prioritize us. Summer waned, but our bond toughened, forged in fire. Autumn painted Andalusia in ochre and rust, grape harvests filling the air with fermented sweetness. A metaphor, our therapist quipped, for turning bitterness to wine. We leaned into it. Vineyard tours in Jerez, hands stained purple from crushing feet in vats, laughter bubbling freer than the sherries we sampled. Valeria's exhibit toured to Madrid, critical acclaim chasing us like a benevolent ghost. My podcast hit a milestone episode, guests sharing arcs that echoed our own, betrayals mended, loves reclaimed. But Elena's shadow proved stubborn, a burr in the wool. She didn't vanish, instead she escalated, subtle sabotages like anonymous tips to gallery donors questioning Valeria's stability, or voicemails left on my line laced with faux sympathy. She's confused, Mary. Grief does that. Let her come home. I deleted them, but they chipped at the peace, turning every late night into suspicion. The real fracture came in November. All Saints' Vigil casting long shadows over graves. We visited Abuela's plot, armfuls of simpásico bright against marble, petals like tears frozen in time. Valeria knelt, whispering in Spanish prayers I assumed for rest. But as wind stirred the bougainvillea, I caught fragments. Perdoname, Abuela, for choosing differently. Later, over tamales in a quiet comedor, she opened up. She knew, about Elena. Back when we were kids, summer visits to tias in Barcelona. It was experimental, innocent at first, then deeper. She shut it down, familia primero, and I buried it like so much else. I nodded, fork pausing mid-air. And now? Does it pull at you? She met my eyes steady, only as a scar. Reminder of what hiding costs. Elena wants to reopen it, make it us against the world. But that's her cage, not mine. Relief washed, but questions lingered. That night, rifling for a scarf against the chill, I found it. A hidden journal, leather-bound, entries in a code of half Spanish, half emojis. Elena's initials dotted the margins, recent as last month. Her laugh still undoes me. What if? Heart in throat, I confronted her at breakfast, journal thumping on the table like judgment. This isn't buried. It's breathing. Valeria's face crumpled, hands flying to cover. Journaling. Processing. I wrote to exorcise, not invite. By romanticizing, pain etched my voice, old wounds reopening. While I'm here building with you? It's not, she faltered, then sighed. You're right. I romanticized the pain, the what if of youth. Stupid. Selfish. The fight was seismic. Accusations flying like shrapnel. You're half in. You're projecting your fears. Until we collapsed, spent on the rug amid scattered cushions. I can't lose you, she sobbed, head in my lap. Not to my mess. You won't, I murmured, stroking her hair. But we burn this bridge. Together. We did, literally, that evening by the fire pit, pages curling to ash under November stars, Elena's ghost ascending in smoke. It was cathartic, a ritual of release, followed by vows renewed. No more secrets, no more what-ifs without voicing them first. Winter solstice brought lightness, Hanukkah lights mingling with Noche Buena candles in our hybrid home. My parents visited. Awkward at first, Dad's gruff, proud of you, kid, over pecan pie, a milestone. Mom gifting Valeria a quilt stitched with Ohio stars, for the home you make. Family redefined. Yet climax loomed, inevitable as equinox. Spring equaled renewal, but ours carried barbs. A letter from Elena, forwarded by a meddling cousin. Not poison this time, raw, repentant. I was wrong. Grief twisted me. But Val deserves truth. Abuela's will. The finca's hers on condition. Marry within family or sell. The condition. A nod to tradition, Abuela's last grasp at continuity. Valeria read it white-knuckled. Then laughed, manic, relieved. Sell. We sell and start fresh. No strings. But Elena's postscript twisted the knife. Or claim it with me. We could. Rage flared anew. She's relentless. I seethed, crumpling the page. Using Abuela as bait. Valeria's eyes hardened, steel and silk. No more. She called a family meeting virtual, as in Tios on screen, from Mexico to Miami, laying it bare. I love Mary. We're engaged. The finca? Sell it. Honor Abuela by living free, not chained. Silence, then uproar. Gasps, blessings, one uncle's grumbled, modern times. Elena logged off mid-call, silent exit her concession. The fallout was a whirlwind, legal consults in Seville, estate agents buzzing like bees. But through it we grew. Charity auction for the proceeds, funding queer youth scholarships in Abuela's name. Humanity over heritage. Valeria toasted at the event, her hand in mine, ringless but resolute. Summer solstice sealed it. A commitment ceremony in the olive groves, barefoot under a chuppah of branches, friends from continents reciting adapted vows. To wander together, to root where we choose. No priest, just a guitarist strumming at last. Etta James' soul stirring the dusk. But betrayal's echo demanded one final roar. Post-ceremony, as laughter rang and lanterns glowed, Elena appeared. Uninvited, dressed black as grudge. Beautiful, she said, voice honeyed venom, pulling Valeria aside by the dessert table. I followed unseen, catching the plea. Last chance. The wills contested now, family vote. Side with them or lose it all. Valeria's refusal was thunder. I already chose. Go. Elena's eyes flicked to me, hatred pure. You'll ruin her. No, Valeria countered, stepping forward, arm linking mine. You would. By dimming her light. The confrontation peaked there, under Firefly's indifferent dance. Elena's tears, accusations of betrayal. You were mine first. Valeria's unyielding calm. I was never anyone's but my own. And now hers. I stepped in, voice steady. Leave, Elena. Heal your own wounds. She fled, tires screeching into night, the grove exhaling relief. We didn't chase, instead we danced, slow swaying, heart sinking to cricket's chorus. The aftermath was quiet revolution. The finca sold swiftly, proceeds blooming into scholarships that dotted Spain with stories like ours. Young queers finding voice, canvas, code. Elena faded. Rumors of her in therapy, a girlfriend in Valencia, shadows softening to acceptance. We heard through cousins, no bridges mended but no wars waged. Distance, that gentle mercy. Our life deepened roots without chains. Fall brought harvests of plenty. My book deal for olive branch hearts. Memoirs interwoven with Valeria's sketches. Her gallery expanding to a Seville outpost. Walls alive with narratives unspoken. We adopted a rescue dog. A scruffy galgo named Soul, all legs and loyalty. His romps through the groves teaching us joy in the simple. Fetch at sunset, paws muddy with promise. Winter's hush gifted introspection. On New Year's atop a Sierra peak, snow-dusted Sierras stretching to Africa, we renewed vows. Not with words but a shared journal. Alternating entries of gratitudes, fears faced, dreams deferred no more. To the girl who made Ohio bearable, I wrote. And the woman who makes Spain eternal, she replied. To the friend who saw me whole before I did. Spring unfurled with life's insistent grace. We talked kids, fostering first, a teen girl from the scholarship program, wide-eyed and wary, folding into our fold like a missing puzzle piece. Her name, Sophia, evoked wisdom, her laugh home. But humanism's heart beats in the flawed, the unfinished. One June dawn, as cicadas tuned their symphony, Valeria woke me with tears. Not sorrow but release. I dreamed of Abuela, she said, voice thick. She danced with us. Approved. I held her, the villa's walls, once echo chambers of doubt, now testaments to endurance. She did. Every step. The story didn't end triumphant. No swelling strings, no fade to happily ever after credits. Life, dramatic to its core, rolled on. Arguments over grocery lists, hers too spicy, mine too bland. Quiet nights tracing constellations. Orion's belt, a reminder of belts unbuckled in metaphor only. Travels to Ohio for my sister's wedding, where we two-stepped under harvest moons, family gazes softening from wary to warm. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, a reminder. Love is an absence of storm but sailing through. Weed-weathered gales, cultural tempests, grief's monsoons, doubts, droughts, and emerged not unbroken, but beautifully mended, gold-laced like kintsugi bowls. On our third anniversary, back on that rooftop where it began, jasmine heavy as memory, Valeria raised a glass of Rioja. To breathless confessions, she toasted, eyes twinkling mischief. To hooks that reel us in, I countered, clinking, and lines that hold. We kissed under the same stars, the olive groves below whispering approval. Ancient sentinels to a love human, hence imperfect, romantic, hence eternal. In Spain's embrace, two American hearts found not escape, but arrival. Whole, woven, wondrously ours. And in that, the truest drama, of lives chosen not chanced.